let's get started. So it was September of 2017, and I lost my job. I know it was said that I worked at IBM, but it wasn't the best job for me. And I found this picture last night of me waving goodbye. It was a shock, to say the least. But just so you know, it was 2 weeks before my 40th birthday, and there's me doing karaoke at my 40th birthday. So it was a really perfect time for me to reflect on what I wanted to do with my life. I really didn't know what to do, but at the first, the first thing that I thought of was like, well, I don't have to do much. I just sat in Central Park. That's my foot there. And I just reflected and relaxed and really tried to think about what I was going to do, because I was given the opportunity that I would be able to work for a period of time without collecting a paycheck, collecting my benefits, without actually doing any work. So I asked my friends and family, what is it that I should do? And this is my professor. His name is Don Bates. I met him, and sometimes when I meet Don Bates, he and I start in the morning and we end in the evening. We're just talking, sharing ideas. He was the first professor I had in my strategic communications studies at Columbia University, and he's become a good friend and mentor to me. But I asked a lot of other people what I should do, including my parents, and they gave me some really bad advice. My parents basically told me to stay the course and keep that corporate job and collect your benefits. How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? And it really wasn't fitting for me. It was 20 years that I had my corporate job, my stability, and it just wasn't doing it for me. So I also bonded with my kids. These are my two children. It was a great time. So instead of using that time of uncertainty to sulk and be upset, I spent time with the kids and really enjoyed that. Oh yeah, and I started yoga. So having that time allowed me to really focus on what's important to me. And I wish I was back in that time, because after the quarantine, yoga is a little more difficult to do. But I hope to get back to that fitness now that I see this picture. But yoga has been a good part of my life. So fast forward, the job was lost in September of 2017, and then in 2018 I attended a workshop at my alma mater, Columbia University. It was a very cold day in January. The workshop was called Reverse Engineering Your Career from Your Passion. And that workshop changed my life. Why did it change my life? It wasn't because the workshop had some profound content that I had never heard before. It was just that I had the capacity to hear it on that day. It was just the right time. And in that workshop, I defined my core values to be candor, curiosity, and collaboration. And when those core values were defined, and I shared with people that I now had these core values, they were like, yeah, that sounds like you. It was weird, because a lot of times you do these exercises and you don't remember, like, oh, I define my mission, vision, and values, and oh, what is that again? But these have stuck with me. And since that day, I actually added one more C, and that's continuous learning into my values. And those values have been a very important guide in my life since that point. So important that they guided me to get divorced. I realized after I defined my core values that I could no longer be married. to the mother of my 2 children. We were married for about 10 years, and I was lonely, and I didn't have anyone to share my ideas with. And I felt like I needed to make a change. So then and by the way, that change was a long time coming. It wasn't just a spur of the moment decision. But the core values really helped me to make that move. Then I had the capacity to start a new business, the Collective NYC. And for the last 2 years, I have been pushing a boulder up a hill with marginal success. I knew what I wanted to do, but I also knew, I also put it out in the marketplace, and the marketplace wasn't reacting that well to my offering. What happened was I was trying to sell branding and marketing services as a corporate guy who had a lot of experience. I had 8 years at Mastercard. I had all these relationships. And what I realized was that people didn't respect and value my marketing expertise enough to pay me top dollar for it. At least the people that I was going after. And I was going after a fairly wide net of people. What I found was that the people I was able to sign up were able to pay for the initial engagement. But then once the initial engagement was over, a lot of times they would take all this great marketing advice and throw it out the window. And it was frustrating. And so then came COVID-19, and I found this image here that shows vision plus skills plus incentives plus resources plus action plan equals change. And if you're missing any one of these things, you could lead to confusion, anxiety, resistance, frustration, or false starts. When COVID-19 came, I realized the world changed. And I became obsessed with how poorly businesses were handling the crisis. So what I did was I created a PowerPoint, and I just kept on every day adding slides to that PowerPoint of examples of great responses to COVID, like Nike, like Zoom, like Dove. And then I gave other examples of brands that were saying, we're all in this together and we're making a big donation to some generic charity. And we're doing it, the same thing everyone else is doing. And no one's going to remember anything we're saying. And you've all experienced that. And so I did that webinar. And I met a wise man named Sahil, who allowed me to share that webinar to the Net Savvy's audience as well. But in addition to Net Savvy's, I shared it to the ANA, which is the Association of National Advertisers. And I also took the opportunity to create that webinar and deliver it on my own. And I had 60 people attend. By far, Sahil's audience was the largest audience that I presented it to. And I noticed a big inflation in LinkedIn as a result of all the publicity, because Sahil did the same thing that I did, which was he realized that he had a forum, and he realized that he could make a difference. And it isn't that hard these days to create a webinar and put it out in the marketplace. And if you're doing it at the right time with the right message, you're going to get traction. So I did get traction. So I was in Forbes magazine, this is not the end all be all, but I was positioned as an expert in coronavirus marketing. So I gave that webinar, and one of the webinars I gave, I had an attendee, and the attendee said to me, "Hey Jay, great job on the webinar. I really have I have some ideas I'd like to run by you." And I said, "Okay." So he runs the idea. He says, I'm going to do an Instagram ad. And I'm going to say, we're all in this together. No race, religion, or location has been spared. My jewelry business, we are following cleanliness procedures to keep everything clean and everything safe. And if you order today, we'll give you 10% off. And I said to him, I need to give you a swift kick in the ass. And he said to me, how much? And I said to myself, oh, I could charge for this. And that was my first client in brand coaching. And I realized at that time that I have a gift for marketing and branding and content creation, but there was very little incentive for people to engage with me before the crisis. And when the crisis hit, there became, I had a subject matter that was timely and relevant. And I also realized that I didn't have to charge the rates that I was charging. You see, what was happening was I was putting a lot of things in the marketplace, and they would be expensive, and I would be pursuing big companies, and then after 8 months or 9 months, I was hoping that something would happen, and then Corona would hit, or then my contact at the company would be laid off, or something like that would happen. And I realized that if I charge less and make it more accessible to more people, it would be not only better for my customers, but it would also be better for me, because I wasn't that busy during the initial days of the coronavirus. And so I offered this at a low price point, and I got a lot of people attending. And the reason why I was able to do this at that time is because I'm a professor, and the class I teach is called Creating Your Brand Through Content Marketing, your personal brand through content marketing. And I've done a lot of thought and refining of my process, and it feels like it's gelled, but it feels right now. And I now have about 20 clients who are taking advantage of my personal branding consulting. And what's really great about it is that when people talk to me, they say, hey, Jay, no one else is looking at it like you are. Everyone else I'm talking to says, hey, Jay, your resume, I'm going to help you with the resume. I'm going to redo your keywords. I'm going to optimize your website. And there was one client that I had that literally hired someone and spent $500 with this person, and the person popped up a website on WordPress, and they put a few pictures on the internet, and they established a few social media networks. It probably took them 7 minutes. There was no content, no substance, and it just didn't make any sense. So what I do is a lot different, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But really, why is it that my success happened right now? It's this. It's called ikagi. I may be saying it wrong, but it's a Japanese concept, and it's the concept. What is it?
Ikigai.
Did I say it right? Ikigai. Oh, excuse me. Ikigai.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew I was saying it wrong. But it's what gives me joy, what I'm good at, and where are the jobs, and that's your brand. And so for years and years, I liked my job, but I also felt stifled in many ways because, Jay, you're the brand marketing digital guy. Don't tell me about media. And the reality is that in order to do good marketing, you need to understand all that stuff. And on top of that, you need to start to connect with emotion. And at some of the big companies, like, how do you connect with emotion if you don't stand for anything? So I came up with this. I looked at this and I said, okay, this is a really good place for me. And so now I have 5 jobs. So I'm the founder of the Collective NYC. I'm your brand coach. I'm an advisor to the UX Bureau. We do content, large-scale digital implementations for big companies. For example, onboarding process flows. I'm a strategic advisor to Rebel Mouse, and I'm an adjunct professor. And in an ideal world, all of these companies will work together to achieve something that couldn't be achieved by one agency. So as an example, I was hired by a company, and I'm working on building a personal brand for a individual who is a very powerful individual that has a lot of opportunity to scale his brand. So from this focus as being an expert in personal branding, and from the idea of delivering low-cost solutions for individuals and small groups, I earned the credibility to be hired in a retained way, in a contract that is 6 months long, that will support me and my family. And that's super important to me. And on top of that, it's work I love doing. So the work is just super cool, like understanding target audience, defining the way forward, helping to establish the website. The other thing that happened is I got a client, and I was able to give Sahil some business. And so I have a model that reflects the realities of today's world. And today's world is a global world, and there's things that I want to do and I want to spend my time on, and there are things that I don't want to spend my time on. And coding a website is not something I want to spend my time on. What I want to spend my time on is guiding the coding and really making sure that it's right, and it's really delivering on the vision and what I'm trying to do. So my message to you is, think about your network of people and partners, and build trusted relationships. And I have a designer in the UK. I have a developer. I don't even know where you are, Sahil. Somewhere in India. I also have a writer who I connected Sahil with in another area of India that is very trustworthy, and we think alike, and that's really super important. And it's not only important that we think alike, it's important that we both get value from each other. It's reciprocity. So getting an opportunity right now to do this webinar is valuable to me. I enjoy sharing my story, and in exchange for that, I mentor Sahil. He shares tips on how to improve my LinkedIn and all these other things. He gets business out of it, and everyone's happy. So that's it. So what I'm going to talk about now is how we're going to do this. And one thing that's really important is that recessions are painful, but expansions have been powerful. And so with regards to the time we're in right now, you could see it. Things are getting better. Now, granted, in the United States, it seems to be getting worse because more people are getting coronavirus, but not for me. I mean, as long as I'm careful and stay away from people, I can do fine. And there are plenty of companies right now that are doing fine. So if you look at the top 100 fastest growing categories of companies, like if you make disposable gloves, you're doing pretty good. And think about the adaptability of, like, for example, the building of infrastructure, or bird foods, or baking. Like why is baking so popular? Because more people are spending time at home. Think about how the restaurants are adapting. with less people able to dine at these restaurants. And what could you do as a business, as a digital business, as an agency to support these businesses? Think about the restaurants that are now offering meal kits. I don't know if that's popular in India, but in the United States, all these restaurants are saying, hey, we'll put all our recipe details and all the foods in a box, and you could cook it at home. That's a shift. And in order to make that shift, you need a digital infrastructure to support that. So all these things represent opportunities. But I want to say this. It's important to not just say, hey, listen, disposable gloves are at the top of the list, and now I'm going to make disposable gloves. That's not the way to go. The way to go is to really understand what drives you personally, and then align your business with that. So here's some funny stats that show, certain things. This is just a joke, but it shows the relative importance in 2020 so far of coffee. Car is down, internet is up, shaving is down, alcohol is up, toilet paper. I don't understand the whole toilet paper thing. I mean, every time I've gone to the store, I've always seen toilet paper, and I've never run out, and I haven't even bought more. So, but people were afraid, and then that creates market demand and hysteria. And the ones who are ready to capitalize on that are the ones that win. So when everything is uncertain, everything that is important becomes clear. And the way forward is around creating shared value, which is similar to the Japanese concept that I shared. There are business opportunities, there's social need, and there's company assets and expertise. And by social need, it doesn't just have to be coronavirus that you're helping people with or addressing a need. You can think about all the movements that are happening in our society today and what's important. Gone are the days where companies can just sort of tread in the middle and not have a point of view. You need to have a point of view. You need to stand for something. And if you stand for something and that results in losing some clients, the advantage of that will be that the clients that you have really will be aligned with your skills and what you're delivering, and will most likely lead you to a great place. So the easiest thing we can do is be boring. So how not to be boring is to listen first. So listen to the marketplace and see trends. And something that's super great is that in order to create a webinar or in order to create your brand coach business, it didn't take much. And you could use all these SaaS software products to create the webinar or host a landing page or whatever it may be. You could use LinkedIn to start a business. A lot of my leads come from LinkedIn ProFinder. And it's just something that came with my LinkedIn subscription, and it's been tremendous for me. So put yourself out there and refine as you go. So you have to think about, what is it that you're starting? Does it align with your strategy or your vision? Or does this crisis help you see that things may not have, see things that you may not have seen before? So a lot of you may have been trucking along and starting your agency and not really looking critically at what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it. And maybe this crisis really forces you to look carefully at what you're doing. Is this your opportunity to create an ambitious, inspirational, but attainable vision? I would argue yes. And you should. But why will anyone care? And no guts, no story. So get out there, say something that people care about, share personal details that make people relate to you. Understand your audience more than they understand themselves. Hit on those emotional story points that just aren't always talked about. And the way to do that is to uncover a content area that you can base your business model on. So this is the intersection of knowledge and skill and something you are incredibly passionate about. It's the intersection of an authority area and your customer pain points. It's a combination of heart and head. That's the balance, a balancing act. And this is something that the founder of Rebel Mouse came up with. She worked at Huffington Post, and she worked with Jonah Peretti at BuzzFeed. I actually went to school with Jonah Peretti. And basically what this is saying here is that there are 4 quadrants. There's the axes are love and versus hate, belief versus disbelief. And if you're at the center of all that, you're officially boring. But if you are sort of fighting between love and disbelief, or love and belief, or belief and hate, and disbelief and hate, when someone actually disagrees with something that you have to say, which isn't very hard to do in this world, that's when there's an opportunity to really engage in a conversation. So I'm sure you can think of some examples of things that people absolutely love and things that people don't love, and how do you sort of pick a side, pick a swim lane. So from idea to action, it's really important, and I teach graduate level courses, and a lot of times people come into the courses and they don't really understand what is the difference between strategy and tactics. The answer is not to put up a webinar. The answer is to think about what that webinar is about. Think about who that webinar is speaking to. Think about who will agree and disagree with what you have to say. So for example, actually, I could give you a really good example of that love and hate and agree and disagree. So I'm at a hotel right now, and the hotel advertised that they give free continental breakfast, and it's coronavirus. And I went downstairs to get that continental breakfast, and my expectation staying at a hotel in the United States is waffles, pancakes, eggs, or at the very least an assortment of Danish or croissants or whatever it may be. And they gave me, and you could look this up on my LinkedIn page, a brown bag with a Danish that was about this big, and an apple and a Nutri-Grain bar. And I said to myself, this is crazy. And then I posted it, and then some guy says, it's only crazy if you don't like Danish. And I'm like, no, this is crazy. Like, you know, the expectation is that I'm getting a continental breakfast and it's coronavirus, and I understand that and appreciate that. But the Danish is small and unappealing, and no one wants to eat that Danish, or at least I don't. And so the guy was philosophically arguing about what, some people may like that Danish. And my friend chimed in and he was like, well, what if they gave you a bag of Skittles? Would that be appropriate? Anyway, so that's the idea. But anyway, going back to this, what's the campaign idea? A lot of people say, do Facebook, do YouTube, do a mobile app, do Pinterest. That's not the answer. When I teach my classes, it's about what are you saying? Who are you saying it to? Why do they care? Why are they going to engage with you? So a way to help you to do that is called purpose, way, and impact. So think about stage 1, state the change that you're trying to bring about. Stage 2 is the way, which is focus on a few unique ways to make it happen. And stage 3 is the impact, is say how it will make the world and people's lives better. So for Southwest Airlines, which is a United States carrier, to give everyone the freedom to fly and bring joy back to air travel. That's state the change you're looking to make. We can control costs and keep fares down by focusing on fun and humor rather than peanuts and perks. That's stage 2. And stage 3 is when more people could go more places in the world, make new connections, laugh with loved ones. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize an airline can do that. At the same time, I see commercials where people are trying to do this, but it's like this emotional COVID-19 thing. You're spending time with your family, and then all of a sudden it pans out to a lawn fertilizer company. And it just doesn't make any sense to me. So when you're making these leaps here, you have to be careful about what is it that you're saying, and how does it truly connect with what your company's purpose is. And in this case, I agree with this, because I've flown Southwest. They have that love heart, and they act in a different way than the typical airline. The other thing that I've made a big part of my training is the simple marketing promise. And the simple marketing promise is something Seth Godin did. And it says, my product is for people who believe. I will focus on people who want, and I promise that engaging with what I make will help you get blank. And you thought all we were here to do was sell soap. And the reason why he says that is because Dove created the campaign for Real Beauty. And the campaign for Real Beauty sells soap, don't get me wrong, but it also raises and elevates the brand to self-confidence. My product is for people who believe that beauty is in all shapes, sizes, and colors. I will focus on people who want a retreat in their day to feel that self-confidence. There are things that you can do that are much bigger than what you're selling. So the next page is the riff about the quarter-inch drill bit. I'll just read it to you guys. The Harvard marketing professor Theodore Levitt famously said, people don't want to buy a quarter-inch drill bit. They want a quarter-inch hole. The lesson is that the drill bit is merely a feature, a means to an end, but what they really want is the hole it makes. But that doesn't go nearly far enough. No one wants a hole. People want the shelf on the wall once they drill the hole. Actually, what they want is how they feel when they see how uncluttered everything is when they put their stuff on the shelf on the wall. Now there's a quarter-inch hole. But wait, they also want the satisfaction of knowing they did it themselves, or perhaps they want to increase their status with their spouse who admires the work, the peace of mind from knowing that the bedroom isn't a mess, it's free and safe and clean. People don't want a quarter-inch drill bit. They want to feel safe, respected, bingo. So you see how a simple trip to the hardware store, if you really start to understand your audience, you'll understand that this might be a great thing. You may also understand that someone like me would get sweaty in the forehead and anxious when using any kind of drill bit, and might want a TaskRabbit, which is a service that would actually just put that thing up, or assemble furniture from IKEA. That always has been a hard thing for me. So what we're talking about here is outcomes, process, and identity. At the center is identity. Identity is what is the thing that motivates you, what motivates your audience. The process is the way to get to it, and the outcome is what it is that is achieved. So an outcome is I want to lose weight. The process is I'm going to diet and I'm going to eat differently. The identity is why you want to lose weight. And so it may be that I am overweight and unhealthy and I want to live for my children. And that's what's going to motivate you to achieve the process and the outcomes. If your goal is to lose weight because I'm fat, that's not going to motivate, or rarely will. So here's another model. This is by Chip and Dan Heath. It's an oldie but a goodie. But think about simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories. There are so many models out there that you can follow, but you want to make sure that your offering is simple. You want to make sure that your offering is different from whatever else is out there. You want to be, very concrete. The Velcro theory of memory. Try to hook into multiple types of memory. So there are so many things that people are seeing and doing in a daily basis. What is that concrete way? Credibility comes from being in the press or being an established leader or whatever it may be. Emotional, that's really important. Connect with people on that level, and stories. And there's a story that you tell yourself, and that story is your reality. So you could say, hey, listen, during this time of Corona, I'm sitting and watching Netflix and I can't do anything. Or you could say, during this time of Corona, I see it as an opportunity to change the way I think about business and help other people. And those that do that are going to be ahead of the game. Did you know that Tesla, every day, Tesla's increase in stock price of late is more than the whole company of Ford is worth? That's number one. And number two, Tesla as a company is larger than Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes combined. So yes, companies have done superficial innovation, but when you look at these Teslas on the road and you see the way they look, the way they act, the way they feel, it's game changing. And so if you could, I'm not saying be like Elon Musk, but think about the world through a different lens, and you're going to get somewhere. And the way to do that is not to just pop things out there. I mean, I think that popping things out there is fine, but eventually you're going to want to bring it together and really understand, what's your mission, your vision, the brand, your target audience, your key messages. And when you document those things, you're going to have a canvas to really focus your stuff on. And then there's this thing called the Hero Hub and Help, which is just something from Google that helps you understand big campaigns, consistently deliver materials that entertain your audience, and be there to answer very specific questions. So for example, like, how do I put up a shelf? That if someone's looking for that and you're the answer, then great, and also think about your product construct, and think about ease and difficulty and for implementation, and think about the attention you need to give more or less, and plot out initiatives. There will be some initiatives that are transformative, and there are some initiatives that will be much more practical to do in a short amount of time. And you could lay it out. Say, hey, this is my roadmap, and this year I'll try this, and next year I'll try that. And you could also understand that I don't know what next year is going to look like, so I'm going to revise this every quarter. So think about that. It's core, adjacent, and transformational. Those are the kinds of products that you can put forth in the marketplace. And getting your message out there is as much about the technology as it is about what you say. I think that you figure out what you say first, then you figure out your technology. But if you have a poor WordPress site that is slow and it doesn't allow for good SEO, people aren't going to see that. If you don't invest in getting people to see your message and invest in advertising, you might not receive results. So in conclusion, we should double down on what we stand for. If you don't stand for something, or something you can own, what better time than to reinvent? Refine your product service to address today's reality. Inspire decisive action based on what your brand stands for and what your customers need at this time. Empathy is critical. And deliver unexpected value and solidify your reputation and relevance in this time of need. So this is me. I'm Jay Mandel, your brand coach. And you can visit me at yourbrand.coach. Please follow me on LinkedIn. And I'm offering something special for you guys. And Sahil will send more details about this, but we can do a group session where we help you to define your core values. It's 3 sessions. First, we start off by defining your core values. It's a very, the exercise is really cool because everyone who does it loses sleep when they do it, because they have to figure out what they stand for, how they're going to order these words, We go through happy times and sad times, and we really help you narrow down on what it is that is your core values. The core values are about you. That's looking inside. But when we want to look outside afterwards, because it doesn't do you any good to have core values if other people don't see them and can't engage with you on those values. So the next step of the process is the simple marketing promise. And the simple marketing promise is we'll translate your core values into a simple marketing promise that will articulate your vision clearly in a very specific way. So my product is for people who believe. I'll focus on people who want. And I promise that engaging with my product will help you get. Now, in both steps 1 and 2, in most situations, people do not nail it on the first try. And so a lot of the value in my coaching is challenging you to really create something that's specific, that's measurable, that's attainable, that's ownable, and is only for you. So if you say, my core values are family, integrity, kindness, and joy, I could give you 100 people that say that, a million people that say that. But if you start to say, I am soft and powerful, and don't think of my not all those who wander are lost, and you start to piece together these very specific things that are relevant to what it is that's important to you, and what it is you're trying to achieve, then we start to get somewhere, and then your simple marketing promise is a lot better. And then after you have that simple marketing promise, then we can shift that to a plan for you to achieve your short-term goals. So that would be some tips on your resume, some tips on how to adjust your LinkedIn profile to stand out and in a good way, content creation. I have one client that is so into his content creation. I showed him how to write an article and really put himself out there. He's written 12 articles. He has a backlog of articles that he's put out there. And then there's networking and all these other things. So Sahil will send out details to all of you about it. But we're at the point where we could have some questions, I guess.
Yes, sure. So Jay, if you can stop sharing your screen, we will just get the question through. Okay, great. So everybody who is having questions, do ask them in Q&A section. And I had few of the things which I got from the today's section, the whole session. I think one thing is very clear that this is a time when most of the people are stagnant in some way or the other, and they have time to ponder upon things that they did in past. So I think the core values part which Jay said, or if we say that what is your brand standing for, and building your own WordPress website in a better way, and taking care of the right KPIs. If you have Google Analytics, just set them across so that you know where are your leads coming from, those kind of doing things. So I think this is the right time to clear the backlog that you all had and create a new task list that these are the things which you can do. Okay. So maybe other people who have questions, they can ask the questions in Q&A section. I think Steven had a feedback, Jay. So he loved the drill bit analogy, which was there. And so one question was there from Peter. So do you choose volume over quality to gain some traction? So what will be your thoughts on those?
No, you don't choose volume over quality. You stick with quality, and then volume will come. Remember that I said that it was 2 years of trying for volume, and that volume just never came because people weren't connecting with what I had to say. What I'm delivering today is the same thing as I was delivering over the last 2 years. It just has more focus and clarity. So I would always shoot for focus and clarity. And then once you get to that, and once you get in the groove, then you could start to think about volume and scaling. And so, for example, I'm working on a project. I'm working with Brian Solis. He's a technologist and author. Yeah. And we're helping him to scale out his life scale coaching program. And that came long after the book was published. And with regards to my coaching, I'd love to deliver a scaled approach to coaching instead of small group sessions or individual sessions. But I also realized that in order to do that, there are certain points in my coaching where you just can't automate it, because it's like, if someone doesn't get it, and then you say, okay, that's lesson 1, and then we're going to go to lesson 2, it just doesn't make any sense. So what is the smart way to do that? And the smart way to do that is probably a combination of lots of things. But you all know these people that say, sign up for this masterclass, and then you sign up, and then there are like 42 videos on this platform, and then you use it for one day, and you're like, oh, I'm super into this, and then you forget about it, and then they keep on billing you. I mean, that's not the business I want to be in.
Okay. So I had another question. So due to this pandemic situation, a lot of agencies are not able to, so they were selling something in the first place because there was demand, and there were a lot of agencies in doing those things. So there was a demand and there was a supply also. But now as the demand is coming down because of the situation, so a lot of companies have cut down on a lot of marketing budgets or those kind of things. So what should be one thing that these guys can concentrate on? So because the market is shrinking in the current situation, maybe a quarter or two down, it will again come back to the situation it was. But for the current time, what are the things that maybe they can concentrate on? So suppose you said they can concentrate on core values is one thing that they can rely on. What are the other few things which maybe if they try to do those things, they can get somebody who is a loyal customer in the current phase, and then he or she can be there with them 6 months down the line or 8 months down the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing to focus on is building trusting relationships. Like the relationship you and I have built has happened during the pandemic and will probably last for our careers.
Yeah.
That's my hope. And so when you find people that you engage with and you trust and are aligned with those values, well, first you have to understand what you stand for, and then you could figure this out. Like Sahil reached out to me on a LinkedIn request, and I like, oh, you want to present to a webinar in India? It's like, oh, okay, sure. But then we started talking, and it's like, okay, great. There's something more here. The same goes for sort of like thinking about what is your offering. So I found that the people that I typically was targeting were not paying money to hire people at this stage. So what did I do? I lowered my cost, and I took the same knowledge base that I have and applied it to a different audience that can, pay for it. My goal here with this training is to not make costs a barrier to entry, and to do volume. And so if I combine the clients that I have that are sort of like the more middle market or corporate clients with these coaching offerings, like the offering I gave you guys, then there's something there. So it's that's it. You got to start somewhere.
Okay. So what I understood was maybe if there is a market for big players, then there is always a market for small players also in some way or the other. You have to just find your niche. So if you were working in a $5,000 market where you are building products for people, and then you are charging $5,000, maybe those clients are not there. But there are new people who might be paying you $2,000 or $3,000 for the things that you are doing. So maybe you can lower down those things and find new people, because maybe they are in search of those kind of things. So
I mean, let me add another thing, and you did this yourself. I now have about a half dozen interns. So I have, so Sahil offered I presented last week to a bunch of interns, and they are helping me. But as a graduate professor, I have now a lot of people that are doing independent studies with me. And what I did was, like, they weren't going to do the independent studies with me, and I get paid for these independent studies. They weren't going to do it because they sought me out. I asked them, I'm like, would you like to do an independent study with me and focus on the content that we studied in my class? And I've gotten a bunch of people to go to that next level with me in the independent study. And now, like for example, on the Brian Solis project, I have several of my interns leading the charge on that. And I have interns doing market research for me and helping with that. And so there's plenty of opportunity out there. You think about automation, you think about technology, you think about all that stuff, and the workforce is changing. And in order to, like, the idea that you as a person are going to be one of the 40 million people in the United States, let's say, that are unemployed, and then you're going to get that job, that traditional job, is not a reality. So what are the scrappy, gritty things that you can do to make the most of the situation? And so now I'm getting free labor from all these people, and it's reciprocal because the people are getting mentorship and guidance and clarity as to how business works. So it's all about those relationships.
Great. So thanks a lot, Jay, for coming today and giving this valuable session. And I think, as always, I learned a thing or two from all your sessions. So thanks a lot for being here.